the talk of the town. I'm Kim Piazza.
And I'm Phil Arno. And Kim, are you ready for some football?
Of course. I live in Western New York. Who's not ready for football?
Growing up in Buffalo, one of the high points of my youth was following the Buffalo Bills. And one of the, there was never anything better than their 1964 and 65 seasons when they went to the championship. And I can still name the starting defense on the Buffalo Bills. You had our guest, Booker Edgerson, and Butch Bird, and George Sames, and Haygood Clark, and Tom Sustak, and Tom Day, and I can go on and on. And what a defense that was. Our guest now, Booker Edgerson. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
What a team. Boy, that was a very, very special team.
Yeah, you forgot Mike Stratton and Harry Jacobs on that
Harry
team.
Jacobs.
So Harry Jacobs was the quarterback of the defense, and he called some great plays. That made us the greatest defensive team, not only in Buffalo, but across the AFL and NFL.
Haygood Clark, I love that name, Haygood Clark.
Such a history.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that team, it's often debated whether if the Super Bowl had started a couple of years earlier, whether the Bills would have been in, you know, would have won that game.
Super Bowl.
But you know, and I as a staunch, you know, Buffalo fan, I always, yeah, absolutely,
well,
absolutely, no question about it.
Bills, of course.
I get in an argument with that from time to time because I tell people right off the bat, you know, we would have played, if they'd have had it, we'd have played the Cleveland Browns that year.
Yep.
And I said, well, I think we would have won the game. And we looked at the matchup, and I would have been covering Paul Warfield, and Butch Bird would have been covering Gary Collins. But everybody, they forgot all about that. They said, what about Jim Brown?
Yeah.
I said, well, what about Cookie Gilchrist?
Cookie Gilchrist, right?
You know, I said, you know, the Browns would have just as tough a time stopping Cookie as we would have stopping Jim Brown. But on overall basis, our defense, especially our linebackers, were a lot more better than the Cleveland Browns linebacker.
Yeah. That would have been a classic. What do you think of the Bills today?
I think they're on the right track. I think Sunday was a game that they got to, you know, put aside and move on. It was almost like that they were so anxious to get this game on that they forgot to play the game. And so they made a lot of mistakes, and hopefully coming up this week, they will be able to make those mistakes go away and give us a victory.
I think it was a learning experience. I think, you know, Kyle Williams said it, you know, that excitement, you know, there's a place where you have to kind of draw the line and say, okay, you know what, we have to channel this energy onto the field, you know, forget about the talk and forget about, you know, all the bluster. Now let's just do the job.
And I agree with him. You know, people, you know, make hay about the gestures that they make on the field and everything. To me, I think the players should concentrate on what they're doing. You know, not worried about the fans. The fans will take care of what's going on. You got to take care of what's going on down the field and let the fans take care of going on with the noise and all that other stuff as to disrupt the other team.
What's changed since you've played on 2 championship teams?
There's not a whole lot of change, but there is a lot of change because of the equipment, because of the exercising programs and the conditioning programs. Basically, they got more players. You know, when I came in 1962, we had 33 ball players. So we had to do everything. Now they have 53 ball players, and they have the ability to move them around and have them to do different things so they don't get tired and wore out like we did before. So that's what they have, manpower, to be able to sustain themselves over a 60-minute period of the game.
One thing that's changed just a tad is they get paid a little bit more money, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, as I mentioned earlier to one of our guests, is that we had to visit their store, and it was the way we did it because of the money we got paid.
Shopped at the 5 and dime.
Shop at the 5 and dime. But it's all relevant to what you do. Yeah, it's just like the workforce. The minimum pay was 90 cents at one time, and you know, you look at it today, it's totally different. And so everything is relevant to the day, and you got to live with it and go on, and don't be discouraged about what happened yesteryear.
Well, now bring us up to date with what you're doing now. You have quite a cause that you're
undertaking,
pursuing,
yeah.
yes, and And tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Well, Cure the Blue. It's a project, program, whatever you want to call it, that was conceived about 5 or 6 years ago, but it actually happened to me in 1996. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and in '97 I had a procedure done, and 3 years ago I was diagnosed again as that the cancer came back, and so I've been very diligent along with the rest of the Bills alumni, and most of all, a lot of folks in the community. They have been so supportive of what we do. And so it's trying to make people aware of prostate cancer and the nature and how it affects family lives. Just like breast cancer, it affects family lives. Mm-hmm. Prostate cancer does the same thing. The difference between prostate cancer and breast cancer is that women talk about it. You know, women make sure that they put the issue out there and let it be known. They go to the doctors and they get checked out and they protect themselves, you know. And that's because they're more family oriented than men are, you know. But we're trying to get men to get out there and be aware of what's going on, and they need to get, especially 45 and older, they need to get an annual checkup. Right now we have a partnership with CCS Oncology, and you can call their 800 number and you can get a free screening with no problem. And so it's just something that we just need to do. And plus we want to make the National Football League to be aware of what we're doing, and we want them to give us the same fair treatment that they do the breast cancer, because after all, who's out on that field every Sunday? Men, you know, playing the game of football, and they have fathers, they have uncles, they have grandfathers and friends, but most of all, 10 years, 15 years from now, they're going to start having some of those problems. And so they need to be aware of what's going on. So if the National Football League get behind Cure the Blue, it doesn't have to be Cure the Blue, but prostate cancer, and because everybody watches football. You know, when you're looking at 40 million people watching football on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday, that's a lot of the attention that you get based on what we're doing.
And as with any cancer, the message is, if you find it early enough, then you'll have success. You really maximize your chances, right? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And what happened with me, I was getting my checkup every year. And that's how they caught mine. They caught it at an early stage, and we was able to minimize the damage and everything.
What really strikes me about your story and what you told us is that you said this was in 1996. So, you know, that's 20 years ago. You were still really a young man, and I think that typically people think of this type of cancer targeting, you know, folks who are really senior citizens, folks who are a lot older, and that may kind of play into why so many men don't talk about it, don't think about it, and avoid, you know, having that checkup. It's this idea that it's only, you know, an older generation that's going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, actually, the thing is that men just have a thing against going to the doctor and getting checked up, whether it's a digital rectal exchange or not. It's just, they just have a problem with it. And I just tell them, women go and get mammograms, you know, and I said, those things hurt. Mm-hmm. You know, getting a PSA or getting a DRE does not hurt, you know, and so I've had pretty good success. There's a lot of folks, as I walk down the street sometimes, I see people they say, hey, Book, you know, I had my checkup 2 weeks ago, or they'll say, I'm going to get my checkup next week. So it's working, and this is what it's all about, is getting people aware of what we're doing.
Well, one of the last things you want to experience is, you know, having a diagnosis that, you know, hey, you've got a serious cancer, and had we discovered it earlier, you would have had a chance, but right now, you know, you're not doing too good.
You want to avoid the head.
You don't want to have that regret.
You don't want to have that. I have 8 friends of mine that's no longer with us because of that fact. They knew something was wrong with them, but they refused to go to the doctor. They refused to get checked out. So that's the biggest problem with men. But the technology nowadays, it's so great, you know, like MRIs, the cost of MRIs used to be very expensive. Now the cost have went down, and with the MRI technology, they can detect anything that's going on there and be able to prevent a serious amount of cancer coming into a prostate and give you the proper treatment to go ahead on and live a productive life without any problems and everything. So with the MRIs and the genetic testing and everything, it's a lifesaver. That's all I can say. Based on the information I have been given and based on what the doctors have told me what's going on, it's a lifesaver.
And I think we should repeat once again what you said about CSS Oncology, that anyone can call and get a free screening. That's a really big deal, a free screening from CSS Oncology.
That's big.
And I'm sure that all of that has a lot to do with Cure the Blues stepping in and stepping up and partnering with CSS to offer that free screening.
Yes, they can call 716 Urology. And set up an appointment and take care of that. And plus the other thing is that we got a lot of people behind us. We got Marv Levy, who is a survivor, Fred Smerlis, Tony Green. I can go on and on and on with the guys in Buffalo, but there's guys throughout the National Football League that has prostate cancer, and it's nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's there and it's to be faced. And when we come back, find out more about how you can meet Mr. Booker.